Thank you very much for the invitation. I really appreciate MindMap AI inviting me to share my thoughts and experience with your great tool. I'm a psychologist by training originally, and I've worked in the field of ed tech, so education and technology, for about 15 years now. And I've been monitoring how, especially since the inception of information technology, so computers connected to networks, how we can make a better use of technology and use that technology to transform education. And as I've done that, it's been so interesting for me to see the evolution of the tools that we have available. Of course, there's the issue of cost that limits access, worldwide to these tools. But also, we're seeing more and more powerful tools made available to learners, to students, and to the educational systems that people participate in. So by educational systems, I mean probably ministries of education in any numbers of countries, or Department of Education if you're in the US, in universities, in schools, high schools, and any form of formal education. We have seen a number of transformations around the world. And some of these transformations are a direct result of being able to digitizing information. So making the information available beyond what was the usual support for knowledge, which has been ink and paper for over 2, maybe 3 millennia now around the world. We've had different technology supports, such as clay tablets. We've had leather skins of animals used as a support for text. Then we evolved into papyrus and vegetal fibers as a support, so what eventually became paper. And then we had the printing press as a new support for knowledge, where we could really massify and make knowledge accessible to greater numbers of people around the world. But since the late 20th century, so around 50 years ago, a little bit less, we've had the possibility of making content digital. And this is such a profound revolution around how we can access knowledge, share knowledge, and also create knowledge. And this is where I found myself looking at MindMap AI with great curiosity. How can we generate knowledge from wherever we are? Maybe we have a phone in our hand. Maybe we're at a desk or a table. We can put our laptop, or we have our desktop set up, and we can work on generating knowledge that we can share with others. And this, I think, is a profound revolution, because it used to be that knowledge could only be developed by a few savants or people that had great knowledge, or be very local. It was my experience with doing some things that allowed me to develop the knowledge I needed to solve the issues I was facing in my micro social environment. But with the digitizing of tools, we can now generate knowledge and share it with any number of people around the internet. And that's a great revolution. So today, just to go into a little bit of more details, I wanted to propose a way to use MindMap AI as a tool for students, but also for teachers to benefit from. And to do that, I want to mention that I've been doing my master's online with Athabasca University on the 2022 to 2024 period. I just finished my master's in last June. And unfortunately for me, MindMap AI launched in August. So I couldn't benefit from the AI revolution as a student of my master's. ChatGPT did come out when I was doing my master's, but I didn't find mind map tools or your tools that could create mind map or extract knowledge from content and turn it into mind maps until after my master's. And that's very unfortunate because I'll explain to you how I would have used MindMap AI if it had been available during my master's. But you could also use it while you're just a high school student, maybe even a middle school student. And definitely if you're in the university or college period of your life, please do mind maps, do use mind maps and MindMap AI as a tool that will enhance and probably deepen your knowledge and your understanding of any content you work with during your education. So how do we go about benefiting from a tool such as MindMap AI in college or during your master's? There's one particular workflow that I'll be elaborating on, which is a situation that I found in every course during my master's. And that situation was that my professors would share their syllabus at the beginning of the course period and or semester. And more often than not, they would pile on 10, 20, 30 papers for us to read or during the course, during the semester. And I thought that was a really big list of content that we had to work through. Papers would usually take the form of PDFs to be downloaded and read. Sometimes they would be book chapters. Most of the time they were just publications in scientific journals. And going through these materials took me a long period of time. So, and I'm not a quick reader. I'm more, if perhaps there are the extreme between a quick reader and a slow, in-depth reader, I'm more on the side of being a slow, in-depth reader. I enjoy reading text. I enjoy analyzing, asking questions to the text I'm reading. And what I've discovered is that this strategy and this aptitude I had for in-depth reading wasn't necessarily the best strategy to deal with the 10, 20, 30 or more papers I had to go through when I was faced with these heavy loads of materials. So eventually, during my courses, it was very interesting for me to read from my professors that they would recommend we don't go through every scientific paper that was listed on the course syllabus in depth. They would recommend something that they described as skimming through the document. And eventually I discovered that this is a fairly common strategy in especially postgraduate courses and classes such as masters or PhDs. You don't need to read everything in depth. Rather, you have to develop the aptitude as a student, as a learner, to really detect where your knowledge gaps are and go in depth into those gaps, those needs to learn that you might find. So that strategy is called skimming. So as a learner, you're expected really to develop the ability to skim through a text, and that you can actually find any number of universities that have specific websites dedicated to explaining what are the skim strategies that you should be using as a learner. And so perhaps let's define a little bit what skimming means in the context of higher education. First of all, it's an active reading strategy. That means that you are, this is a style of work that you do as a learner to generate knowledge that you can incorporate into your repertoire or your knowledge base. And it's not just going through a text, it's actively seeking out what are the important elements of a text. So a scientific paper, a book chapter, or any other source. It might be a video, it might be a podcast, any other source that your teacher has selected for you or that you have found that is relevant to the topic you're studying. You can use the SKIM strategy onto it. And so what you should do during an active, when you're using an active reading strategy, of course, is first set a purpose. What is your purpose for approaching this text, this paper? And second, do a lot of annotations. Take notes on what you are reading about, because this will help you fixate, so remember what you're reading. And also, it gives you the opportunity to figure out what are the key issues you're dealing with in the text. Is the text hard to read, perhaps? Is it proposing ideas that are challenging? Is the text approaching topics that you have a limited knowledge on? So all these are questions that you should have in mind when you're approaching the text. And now that I've been exposed to MindMap AI, I've made SKIM into an acronym. So the acronym is that SKIM is the Systematic Knowledge Integration through Mind Maps. So that's what I'm proposing in this webinar, is that you, when you engage in a course and you are given a heavy load of content to work with in the course, please go use this strategy of systematic knowledge integration through mind maps. So when you use it is when there's this heavy load of content, and when your teachers don't do really a good job of describing, of giving you priority in terms of what you need to read, you have a lot to cover, and you have always, as a student, limited time. So what do you do with this? Well, that's when you start using a tool such as MindMap AI. So the process in MindMap AI is really straightforward when you start up. So I'm going to share my screen now. Give me just a second to get that working here. Here we are. So the interface when you start, perhaps I should create a new map here. The interface, when you start working with MindMap AI, you've logged in, and immediately what you can do is upload files. So when you upload a file, you will be able to select a PDF, maybe a text file, but you can also upload an audio file or even a video file. And I think that's really interesting. More and more, I think knowledge is shared on YouTube, for example. So if you have a version of the video you want to work on and study or skim through available, then you're able to upload the video into MindMap AI, and that becomes the source of content for your material. So let me give you an example of something that I worked on. I was looking at this paper called "In Full Partnership, Women's Advancement as a Prerequisite for Peaceful Societies." And I was really trying to get a gist of what the content of the PDF was. And what I did was upload the PDF. And of course, MindMap AI generated a quick mind map that allowed me to see what the big themes were. So it doesn't matter, the specifics of this particular paper are not relevant, but it's interesting to be able to look at the content and get a grasp of what the key topics are. And this is the key strategy as a learner that you should really embrace, is identifying what the key topics are, and then start to go deeper when you find you have a knowledge gap. So that this topic is new to you, you want to understand it more, so you want to go into more depth. So identifying the knowledge gap, and also being able to identify quickly what the big topics are and subtopics are. And this is where MindMap AI really shines. It creates this mind map where you have the big themes spelled out, and they're clear to go through and look at. And once you have an idea of what the big topics are, you can go into asking questions to the text. So what does this text think about this? What does this text indicate about that topic? So, and that works really for any topic you might encounter in higher education. And then, as you can see here, you can also ask MindMap AI to do some changes into the mind map it generates. So it will generate an initial version of the text of the mind map, but then you can use this instruction that I find very useful, add more detail to all sub-branches. So when you do that, what you get is a branch that go into, usually you will have the name of the document, right, or the topic. Then you have the first level branch or the first topic, and then you have different sub branches. But MindMap AI initially will give you just this, typically these two levels, the big topic and then the first sub branch. But when you want to go into more detail, you can ask MindMap AI to go into adding more detail to all sub branches. So what it will do is add more information that it has gathered from the text you've uploaded, the PDF you've uploaded, and it goes into more and more sub branches, giving you finer and finer detail. And that's really great when you want to, once you have done a first read through of what the tool is proposing, you can then go into more detail and find out more about a specific part that you're interested in or that you feel you have a greater need for knowledge. Of course, as a learner, you don't want to stop at just looking at the mind map. At some point, you will want to go back to the PDF itself and compare what the mind map is showing you versus what you have in the paper, and try to see if the mind map is true to the content of the paper, or if perhaps the mind map has generated for you a new perspective and a perspective that is somewhat different from what is in the paper. And that's very useful to compare because that shows you that there's more than one way to look at the content of the text. So this is very, very quick to do. This is something that you can do in maybe 3 minutes. You have a mind map ready that gives you the idea of what the big topics are, what the main sub branches are. And then you can go in depth by asking, add more detail to the sub branches as needed. And then you can go around and modify some aspects of the map. So in this case, I identified a topic that was of interest to me, and I put expand the topic so that the mind map would go into further detail. And so here you can see how you don't stay with just 1 or 2 levels of branches. You can go to a 3rd level and a 4th level of branches to go in depth. And of course, if you have a longer document, then you can go more in depth as needed. But of course, the goal of mind maps in general is to summarize information. It's not to represent every single bit of information that's in a paper. So you always start from this mindset of, I'm summarizing information. I want to identify what the big topics are and how they're organized. So that's one example of skimming through text. So you upload the PDF. The process is you upload the material, the PDF, the podcast, the video, and you ask for a mind map that will give you usually 1 or 2 levels of branches. And then you go more in depth by asking specific questions to MindMap AI to have it go into the further details that you're interested in. And so this will help you skim through a large number of texts. If creating this mind map takes, let's say, 5 minutes, and you have 20 texts to go through, that means that in an hour and a half, perhaps 2 hours, you have generated mind maps for the 20 papers that your professor at the university or at the college is asking you to read about and be informed about. Now, I want to be clear that this does not replace reading. And so this gives you the first approach, the initial contact with the content, and it helps you as a learner to make qualified questions about what you need to know, what and where your knowledge gaps are regarding this new course you're taking. And so this enables you to identify the areas you're less knowledgeable about, and then it also gives you a very important clue about where you need to spend your time reading. If you can identify where those knowledge gaps are, you can better focus on those areas. It will also help you create hypotheses about the subject you're reading about. So this is something that is a great strategy for reading. Once you've gone through the first, I don't know, 5 papers, you probably are getting an idea of, through the mind maps, of what the topics are. And once you have that, you can start thinking about, okay, so the next paper I'm going to read is going probably to cover this and that and this, these topics. And then you can make those predictions and validate them, verify whether your predictions are accurate or not as you go creating the different mind maps. And this will give you feedback about how well you are learning about the subject. And then, of course, the final aspect of skimming is deciding on where you need to focus, where you are going to spend your time reading in more detail, because this will be a key aspect of your learning, right? So the steps in practical terms are thinking about the different PDFs, materials, contents that you want to upload. And once you've done that, you will be able to generate and refine, fine-tune the mind maps that you are working with. Never be content with the initial mind map that's created by MindMap AI. You want to ask for more branches, make changes. It's interesting to know that you can edit any aspect of the mind map. So for example, here, if I double click, I can start editing the content of the mind map. And that's useful because maybe you find that some aspect of the content is not what you've understood or what you appreciate from a text. So you can make modifications as needed. And as you do that, as you do this editing of the map really becomes yours. And that's something that you should always value, making sure that the mind map that you have created really fits what you need to know about the content, whatever the piece of content is. So as you do that, the next step will be thinking about or going back to the syllabus that your teacher has offered you. You've generated, I don't know, maybe 20 mind maps of the different papers you've been working with. And as you do that, you will have a very good idea of what the content is, what the key questions of the material is. But then it's interesting to look at the different activities that were proposed by your professor. So maybe you will have to write an essay. Maybe you will have to do some inquiry, research, gather more information about some aspect of the class you're taking. And then what you can do with that is, again, use mind maps for those aspects. Maybe you want to create a plan of what you will be working on your essay. Maybe you want to gather ideas. So maybe you will create a new map and start adding branches to the mind map you're creating about where you map your essay. So those are the elements of this SKIM strategy, the systematic knowledge integration through mind maps that I'm proposing to you. If you're a pre-grad or a graduate student in any higher education institution, I'm really positive that this will help you as a learner. But then there's a second part that is interesting to think of is what do you do with MindMap AI as a teacher? And so I wanted to share how for a teacher, the use of the MindMap AI is a little bit different. So here, let me share a course I've been working on. I'm designing a course on the topic of collapsology. I won't bore you with every single detail, but basically the idea here is I wanted to test how MindMap AI can generate ideas for a course. Again, I'm not giving artificial intelligence the role of creating the course for me, but MindMap AI and any artificial intelligence really is a good echo chamber to test ideas on and see what comes out. So in this case, I'm creating a course on the research that's being done with collapsology. And I asked for MindMap AI to create the outline of what a course would like. And then I realized that the course that was being generated, or the ideas that were generated for me, were not um, the authors I was interested in. So what I did is that I modified, I made a request for, let me see if we have it here in the chat. Oh, so here you can see at the bottom how I wanted a detailed map for a course about transitioning from collapsology to the creation of a new civilization, but I wanted specific authors to be, those authors' perspectives to be included. So I asked, using the perspective of Pablo Servigne and Jem Bandel, two authors that I was particularly interested in. And so the mind map was created and was specifically tailored to what I was interested in. So taking these specific authors into consideration. And so this created a set of possibilities for me to think about and look at. And of course, because I'm the specialist in these topics, as a professor, as an educator, I can find what the interesting ideas are. And as a professor also, I can see ideas I had not thought of. And this is very interesting as a course designer, as an instructional designer. I can see that some of the topics that I had not considered perhaps have some relevance, have some importance that I hadn't given adequate weight to. So this is something that is very useful to me. And then I can use that as a feedback tool of whether what I'm thinking of is a more a well-explored, well-known idea, or where I'm more creative in terms of these are the ideas that I have in mind are not represented here. And then this can be something that can be more original to my thought process. And then I can add more value to a course because the following set of ideas haven't been explored, or the mind map that was generated did not have that in perspective. You can see also here in the chat that MindMap AI is multilingual. So if I'm going to give the course in Spanish, which was my scenario here, I can have the mind map directly translated into Spanish as well. And you can see that mind map engages with me in Spanish as needed. So you're not stuck with only English as the default. You can switch to different languages, which I think is very useful. And you can you can see that when I asked to turn the map into a design for a course, MindMap AI provides me not only with a mind map, but also with a detailed text that I can copy and paste into a Word document or a Google Doc so that I can work on that content also in a text version. I'm not stuck with only a mind map version. So this different possibilities of how to use the content to me is make it really useful. And you can play back and forth with that. So here once I had the design in text, I could turn it back again into a mind map. And then, as I mentioned from the learner strategy, you can also push MindMap AI to give you more details and go into a detailed map for each week of the course, for example. So, and you can keep on editing and playing with it. When you double click on any branch, you can modify, add sub branches as needed. So those are different tools that as a teacher you can use to benefit your work as a professor. And then the next question is, well, how do you use those mind map in class, right? In your interactions with your learners. And so perhaps the first thing that as a professor, I would encourage you to do with your students is to develop a culture of trust but verify whatever output your students are working with. So let me just stop sharing here. This culture of trust but verify, I think, is really important. We know that artificial intelligence at this point in time, in 2025, is prone to something that is called hallucinations. So AI's, artificial intelligence in general, at this point of the development of the technology, they sometimes produce results that are fabrics of ideas that have no footing in reality. So that process is called hallucination. Sometimes it's been detected that artificial intelligence will even make a fake citation, academic citation, from a fake paper with fake authors and fake content regarding any topic that it's exposed to, especially topics that it's less knowledgeable about. And so, as a professor, what you want to do is to really develop that critical thinking in your students of trusting but verifying the citations that artificial intelligence generates, and also training your students to really verify what they are looking at in a mind map versus what is in the original paper. So students should not rely only in the mind map and have zero contact with the actual reading material. So that's, and I think that's the foremost aspect that teachers should work on. But once you've trained your students on having this critical literacy skill and this digital literacy mindset, then you can fully engage with how they go about creating those mind maps, and especially editing, modifying those mind maps so that they can help the students make progress in the course and in the learning they're supposed to have and benefit from as a result of the course. So that the second aspect of having your students interact with mind maps and MindMap AI, for example, is that you should really teach your students to go into the mind maps and editing those mind maps, refining them so that they become a better representation or artifact of knowledge that the students can use and use as a tool for discussion, for example, in the class. So that's another aspect I wanted to share. That's so the trust but verify, and also make sure that the students have develop the skills to edit and tailor the mind maps so that they really fit into the goals of the course that you're proposing to your students. And this work really is comparable to teaching your students how to take notes. As a professor, you might think that your students already know how to take notes during a lecture, but we now know that if you spend a few minutes teaching your students how to edit their notes, their learning increases a great deal because that process becomes more systematic and becomes of a better quality than it was if you hadn't given that instruction. So the same goes for using a tool such as MindMap AI or a mind mapping tool. What you want to do is really to help your students make the most of the tool and not just take it as is without any reflective or critical attitude to it. So this was the presentation I wanted to make. Just to summarize what we were discussing, the first big aspect is how do you benefit from MindMap AI as a learner? And it's the SKIM strategy that I wanted to propose, the systematic knowledge integrated through mind maps. And that is uploading the reading materials to generate a mind map that will give you a large scope view of what the content is, then refining the mind maps to have a finer idea, making decisions as a student on what you need to read in detail so that you can benefit the most from the reading selection that was made by your professor. And the second aspect I was sharing was as a professor, as a higher education, or as an educator, how do you benefit from MindMap AI? Basically, engaging in a dialogue with the tool so that it can generate mind maps that will help you plan ahead and refine your design for the course. So I hope that this is useful for educators and learners around the world. I can see the Q&A box. So I can see a question. A question has just shown up. How can I let my fellow youth know this information about AI because AI is very important in our world? Well, I guess one thing you could do is once MindMap AI has shared this to the to its YouTube channel, you could share the video with your fellow learners and professors, perhaps fellow professors if you are an educator as well, so that they can think of these different uses of mind maps and try them out for themselves. And I'm seeing another question. How would you relate Prezi with this mind map? So Prezi is a different tool to generate presentations. I'm guessing that if you can extract the text from the Prezi, you could import it into this mind map tool, and then you would be able to work on improving the text that is in your Prezi into the MindMap AI engine, and that would probably give you more ideas on how to work on your content and organize it. I've been a big fan of mind maps. I've been using them for 20 plus years now in my professional life and personal life as well. And it was really intriguing when artificial intelligence came to a state where we could use dialogues as a method of engaging with artificial intelligence. But what MindMap AI really has brought to the front for me is that now the tool that I'm familiar with and comfortable with, which is mind maps, can be co-created with an AI that supports me into the design and that I can engage into a dialogue with. So this is very new and very exciting. I was really thinking that if I had this during my master's, I would have benefited so much more from my master's education if only I had had that tool available. So I wish the best of luck with future master's students and higher education students, pre-grad or post-grad students, using these tools to enhance their learning. So thank you so much to MindMap AI for inviting me to test this tool out and discover what a great way it is to enhance learning with it.